damit kommen wir zu zwei verknüpften Programmpunkten und kommen zu Hakan Ekmen. Er ist CEO Telecommunication Bereich bei der Umlaut. Das ist jetzt das, was auf der Visitenkarte steht. Für uns ist es einfach ein sehr, sehr guter Kooperationspartner seit vielen, vielen Jahren und ein sehr beliebter Mensch auch, muss man an der Stelle auch mal sagen. Deswegen freue ich mich sehr auf deinen Vortrag, Hakan. Im Anschluss daran bauen wir kurz um, gibt es ein Video nochmal für die Umbauzeit und dann begrüßen Sie hier auf der Bühne und wieder vor den Monitoren meine Kollegen Bernd Heiß und Hannes Rügheimer. Aber jetzt gehört die Bühne dir, Hakan.
Danke, Dirk, für die Einladung. Habe ich sehr gerne angenommen und danke auch für die Partnerschaft der letzten gefühlt 15, 20 Jahre. Und ja, wir haben heute sehr, sehr viel über 5G gehört. Standalone, Non-Standalone, DSS. Wir haben auch über Festnetz schon einiges debattiert. Die Frage ist, wie sieht das in der Wirklichkeit aus? Ich werde die Präsentation jetzt auf Englisch machen, weil wir auch englischsprachige Zuschauer haben. 5G and fixed broadband. During the COVID period, these topics became even more important, and I would like to give you a snapshot how 5G is in the field, how it is working, and the same for the fixed broadband. Starting with 5G. When we look into our data, we see in 65 countries, or more than 65 countries, already commercial networks. When I look back a year or 1.5, we were at 15 to 20. It is a must rollout from our perspective, what's happening at the moment. And it's becoming more and more mature. When we look to the index we have called the Umlaut score, then we see that the networks are not at the same level. We see countries like South Korea, US, Canada, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, and also Kuwait, where the maturity is much higher. And then we see other countries where the maturity level is not yet there because they are ramping up 5G. This index is available on a monthly basis, and this is something we are sharing also with the team of Connect. Looking a bit to the scores, we see at the moment, and that's a snapshot from November 2021, that we have in North America a very strong development with 5G. We see in Europe and also in Asia Pacific good developments. The scores in Canada, in US, in Germany, in Switzerland, in the Netherlands, and in Austria, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Australia, in South Korea, and Japan are very high already. We see that recently also in Latin America, 5G was introduced. Looking a bit deeper to the European landscape, here the development into 2021 from January until November. Beginning of the year, we have seen that the industry has started to deploy 5G in 2020 March. I think it was kicked off, and then after, let's say, 9 to 12 months, we have seen that it was a great development already. When we look then now in the last 10 months, just take an example of Germany. It's a massive rollout. It's a massive rollout, and this we see across all the countries. We see it in Switzerland, we see it in UK, in Ireland, we see it in the Balkans, even in Scandinavia. Great developments here, just to mention Sweden as one of the countries. And the scores, the highest scores we see in Netherlands, in Denmark, in Switzerland, and in Austria, closely followed by Germany and UK at the moment. Great development, and chapeau to the industry. It looks like they're taking this very serious in these difficult times. Just remind you, we still have the COVID challenge. Coming to the Americas, also here we will look back to January. And we have seen some developments, early developments in Latin America. When we look now in November, we see in half of Latin America 5G already. Looking to North America and Middle America, here you see two very big-sized countries with a very strong signal strength. Canada and US are lighthouse when we compare the size of the country and the maturity of the deployment. Very strong statement also from these two countries. Coverage. Now a bit deeper looking to the matrix coverage and just the color coding here. When it is green or dark, it is very mature, and yellow means really early stage. And here you see, for example, US, very strong contribution with the coverage. It is the coverage itself, and it's the quality of the coverage. The same we see, for example, in Australia or in Canada, in Saudi Arabia, also in China, Italy, also in a country like Ireland, and we see that other countries like Germany are closely following, and the early deployments we see in Latin America. Now, that's also something to highlight here. New Zealand, you see that also here we are halfway done for the whole country when it comes to the coverage. Latency, it's one of the KPIs everyone will measure is the latency, the low latency especially. And here we see a bit different picture. Canada is really doing great here. Also Australia, South Africa to highlight, and all the European countries. Now here to highlight also Germany, Sweden, Italy, UK. Very low latency we measure here in average. And this matrix is reflecting really the average across the country and across all the deployments from all the MNOs. It is also a statement here in Europe, the low latency, South Africa, to mention again, Australia, and the big size country, Canada. Coming to the speeds. Now when we talk about speeds, often the community is talking about speeds. It's not surprising that all the countries are focusing on this KPI. And if you look to the speeds, almost in all the countries, we see very good speeds. The color coding shows it is in our metric minimum supporting 50 megabit per second in average or above for the whole community. And you see that Europe is almost all green, means video applications, simultaneous sessions are working well. Also in Latin America, where 5G kicked off recently, also here the speeds are really on a very good level. Also here, really good job done by the whole industry. That was a snapshot on 5G. The summary: it is a fantastic job. The industry, the device OEMs, the infrastructure OEMs are doing, and we see also that early stage, the Open RAN topic is kicking off. For example, in Japan, as an example, also the scores we have seen in Japan are on a competitive level compared to the traditional way of deploying networks. Just to give here also a hint. Coming to the fixed broadband. Everyone is working from home. The connectivity is a concern always, and for sure fixed broadband needs attention. And for this reason we generated a famous Umlaut score around the fixed broadband to be able to qualify fixed broadband infrastructure. It doesn't matter if it's DSL, it is GPON, it is DOCSIS, it's coming through a cable operator, or is it a traditional way, or as in hybrid with fixed mobile. We assessed the world across all the regions, and would like to give you a snapshot today here. starting with the score. Now, this is always a starting point for us. We need to understand where fixed broadband is deployed and how it is working, how reliable it is working. And reliability is very important when you're working from home. It's not only because of home office, everyone wants to be connected. Just remind you, today in Germany, also in Austria and other countries, we have a lockdown. Looking to the score, again, North America, well developed, with very high scores. Also in Latin America, fixed broadband is almost everywhere. In Europe, the combination of having fixed broadband and having high quality and reliability is also given. Almost in all the countries we have high maturity. In Asia Pacific, here to highlight, there are countries in Middle East or in Korea, in Japan, also in the Pacific area, also in Australia and New Zealand, we see high scores. But we see also the reality is we have countries where fixed broadband is almost not existent, especially the African country we have here, countries where the maturity is okay, but we have also countries where the maturity is very, very low. Now, that's definitely something we have to work on, I think, as the community, the ecosystem, the government, and everyone should work on that. Everyone in the world should be connected, minimum via the fixed broadband. The world ranking, also here, we see that when you have broadband at home, the performance could differ. And you see very high scores again in countries, just to mention Switzerland here as the top performer in November. And if you then look, for example, to the last 20, you see it's a complete different world. And it's not surprising. These countries are mainly in Africa, and I think this will evolve and develop over the next years. The scores 1 year back were even lower. They doubled also in Africa, and we see here a positive trend. And let's look forward and work on to improving the connectivity also in Africa. Coming to the matrix, again the overall score. I've shown this to you already. The scores are stable, and we see in general a positive trend. We don't see any country where the performance is going backwards. It's just going up. That's a very positive trend. When we look to the speeds, here you're at home, and what is concerning is always the speed. Uplink, downlink. And when you look here, and it is really amazing what we see here in the US, in Canada, also in Russia or in Australia, in Brazil, in these big size countries, how mature the performance is regarding the throughputs. And when we look to Europe, I think across all the countries, in average, very good speeds. When we look to Africa, would say video is working, but Ultra HD is not maybe working everywhere. But the starting point is for us that video is working, connectivity working from home. It's starting with the regular Teams voice. It's 600 kilobit per second. It's 2 megabit per second for maybe a video session. It's 4 to 8 megabit per second requirement when someone is doing something in parallel. And when your kids are starting looking video at home and you're working, you need around 50 megabit per second or above, and that's the reality. No, that's the reality we try to simulate here. It's really looking good, very positive trend when it comes to the speeds. Then another KPI is latency. In fixed network, latency is important. It's not only because of the gaming. It's also regarding some real-time applications, and also when you look to now working from home, real-time is becoming more and more important. And here, looking to the to the matrix, we see here again America starting from Canada, going down to Argentina. In all the countries, we see very good development regarding the latency. When we look to Europe, chapeau, almost in all the countries, it is fulfilling the demand of consumers. When we look to Africa and Asia Pacific, a bit different picture for sure. Africa, I highlighted already, we have to work here, and I know that big corporates are working really heavily to improve the situation in the fixed broadband, and I'm sure when I'm here in 1 year, I will talk about a success also in the development in Africa. Here to highlight Australia, New Zealand, also the Philippines and Japan, South Korea, very positive development. And also in India, we have seen recently that in this big country, the latency is developing positive. Now, that was the fixed broadband snapshot. Overall, very promising development. Almost all the KPIs are improving in our index across all the countries. And wishing the industry all the best in the challenge, connecting everyone at home and connecting everyone when they are moving. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Das ist jetzt unsere. I think we're going to come back to that in our panel discussion as well. But what are the main points that you could take as an explanation for these worldwide differences? What do those countries differ in that results in the differences of latencies and download rates that you just showed to us?
I would see definitely the deployment status. You know, we have to first deploy the infrastructure. That's usually the starting point, is the rollout. And then when this is ready, usually is the capacity situation, then also the design, and for sure also the tariffs the users have an impact on the performance. It is, and also the CPE. If you look to fixed network, a big contributor for the performance is the home router. Because you are at home and you have Wi-Fi, and if the Wi-Fi router is at the first floor, you have in the second floor, the performance is impacted by this. I think when you look to the end-to-end chain, we see definitely the deployment in the field, what technology is concerned. Then let's say the solution, and also for sure the vendor is also playing a role here. But the CPE at home is also something having a big impact on the user experience. When we look to 5G, also here we see for sure still differences. Here we learned today about DSS, about standalone, non-standalone. For sure, when the operators are at the moment bridging a bit, going from 4G to 5G, they have different solutions, and this is impacting partially the performance. But when the design is then executed completely, you can be sure it will be fantastic performance.
Many operators switched out their 3G networks during the last years. And do you see an impact on this?
Just take an example here. Recently, I think it was in the summer here in Germany, all the 3 operators switched off 3G.
Yeah.
This is usually the time where someone should be concerned. Usually the CTO should be concerned, or the salesperson, or even companies like you're doing benchmarks should be concerned. But here, taking this example, all the operators really did well here. It was switched off, and the result was, from our perspective, that better broadband coverage, because the consumers have seen more 4G, and this is usually something improving the performance. And also in this difficult period, I think we had even the flooding this year. reminding this one, in combination with switching off the technology, we see that this was working well, and also in other countries like in Australia or in Switzerland, other technologies were dismantled. Also, this was managed really well, and the impact on the customer we see is positive, because they see more 4G or 5G.
And with the rise of 5G, usually when we had new mobile technologies, there was always kind of hassling when starting a new technology. Have we seen this with 5G too? Did you first have a small break in reliability and such things?
Let's look back March, April last year, where this 5G was really have been kicked off globally. Until March last year, we had few installations, but then we have seen a fast ramp up, and for sure when you do a fast ramp up, things could work less well than if you're not in a hurry. We see here maybe in the beginning with the DSS implementation some disappointments in the industry, because the performance potentially was even lower than 4G. This has improved to be at minimum than the 4G level. We have seen that with the different geographical challenges the operators had, maybe in the beginning of the rollout some challenges, but later was working well from my perspective. It is done faster deployment and much better quality.
Thank you very much.